Yes, ma'am.
I think it's probably on the same line
Okay.
as Pastor was discussing. We don't change and convert, it's not our job.
Right.
And I think sometimes we get confused, and it's not a conscious thing, I don't think, that we convert people, we don't convert souls.
Yeah.
We're not the ones doing, even when we do the work, God has only asked us to do the work, and He'll do the rest.
But the thing we do control is how it's presented.
Yes.
Are we arresting attention?
Yeah.
Are we doing things out of a common course of things so that it can reach this culture? Are we being all things to all people? Those are what we're called to take care of.
Yeah.
We have control of that, but we
Yeah.
are not the ones that save people.
Yeah.
Jesus alone saves. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I'm on the same page.
Oh.
Prayer. Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Holy Spirit, when we work with people. I've been on one of my sisters I was with yesterday for all my life.
Yeah.
I said, I think I'm gonna become service. I said, but you already preached it. Just come to church. And she brought in the Sabbath with me yesterday, and I sang the song, The Burden to Tears.
Yeah.
It was about the Sabbath. And, you know, I don't bang her about coming to church with me, because she knows where I live, she knows where I go to church.
Right.
You know, I just be with her and love her.
Yeah.
Just like she is, she's a Christian, she's Baptist,
Yeah.
but she's a good Christian.
Yeah. You know what half of our evangelistic events are? Socials. Just having fun. We purposely, half of the things we do event-wise are socials in the community. Just going and having a picnic and inviting people, hey, you want to have a picnic? We're having food. No religious overtones. We're not trying to sneak religion in on them.
No.
We'll have a quick prayer over the food, but we'll have real beef hot dogs and fake hot dogs, because not everybody can handle those fake things like me. Yeah. You know, so I wasn't raised Baptist, man. I don't know how you guys eat that food. That fake meat is so nasty.
Basically, it's the Holy Spirit that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That's what it
You know, like
is.
it. So I'm sorry, you had it first, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Scenario. A friend comes, you know, I'm supposed to be at church. So they come and say, well, you know, I have this thing going on, and man, life is so hard. I got these problems and problems and problems. So I listen to the story and sympathize. Second scenario.
I'm sorry, the first person, is he an admin or she an admin?
No.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, they are religious.
Yeah.
Not an admin.
Okay.
Second scenario, first comes, and again, they talk about the challenges of life, but they're talking to me, and I respond by saying, let's pray about it. I can't help you, but God can. We all have challenges. You have, obviously, I have, but God has taken me this far. And He will take us through it. Which one is the most appropriate?
The most appropriate thing is to help them meet their need, if you can. That is the most appropriate, because that's what Christ did.
In the first
Christ
scenario,
method alone. He sought their good. He actually did healing. He served people's needs. Then, once they built confidence, then he said, come follow me. He didn't just find out what their needs are, he met needs.
Yes.
So when Brian Bartimaeus came and he said, what do you want me to do? I want you to be on my side. You know, he asked people, what do you want? Tell me. He wanted them to tell him, what do you want?
Okay.
Then he met needs. So the best way, now you can't meet everybody's needs. Somebody tell you, you know, we're getting foreclosed on and, you know, I need $40,000 or this is going to happen. You know, unless you're independently wealthy and want to just throw money around, that's not normally the way you could do it. But maybe you could say, have you checked on, you know, can I help you find maybe a real estate attorney? Maybe there's some things they can do to help you. Have you looked at different routes? I don't know anything about this, but let's look online and see if there's anything that might be a service to you in this. Show them you care and actually are willing to spend a few minutes working with them. Now, if it's a woman, I'm sorry, women, But if it's a woman, make sure they actually want you to help first. They're not just telling you. Because women like to share without wanting advice. Men don't do that. Men share wanting advice. So it depends on what they really want.
Okay. Thank you for that. But here's the concern I really have. In the first instance, as you said, some people like to be just a good listener,
Right.
not to do anything. Should we cater to that at all?
Yeah. If that's all they want, if they're just looking for, you can, if you know the person, you're friends with them, you can just ask them. Say, I am terribly sorry. Is there anything you would like me to do to help you, or you just needed to vent? I understand if that's all. Just ask. Be clear. Communicate, and then communicate again. That's the best way to know if you're doing the right thing.
So, should we, as the church, be open to listening to the concerns and needs of others?
Absolutely. I love that there's a fair that a church did a booth at a fair. That all they did is just said, "We're here to talk. Just come talk to us. We're not going to preach to you. Just come talk." Some people have nobody to talk to. They have no one to share, or they're thinking about something in their life, And if they don't know or trust somebody, they're not going to talk to anybody. But when you build trust, like I had a guy come up to me and say, I've been sleeping around my wife. She hasn't had sex with me for a year, and so I just decided I'm going to leave her. What do you think about that? I've been having an affair, and this girl and I are going to get married. And he came straight out and told me these things. If I hadn't built a rapport and a connection with him, I never thought that was okay. That day, we went and broke up with the girlfriend, and went and told the wife, built reconciliation. They have several kids now, and we're a happy family. But that wouldn't have happened if I had not been willing to listen, be a good friend, hear him out. Those things. So it's every situation is different. You're going to have to deal with it. Jesus didn't deal with every person the same exact way. People are different, so we have to react different. Good question. All right, so got to keep going. Oh, I love this. I don't think there's going to be a problem in this church at all. This is a problem in Adventism. All right, so the middle thing, this is becoming like Jesus, growing towards positive 10, becoming a strong disciple. By the way, when I use the word disciple, I don't mean a follower. I mean a leader. Jesus didn't create people who just followed, they led. They changed the world. That's what disciples are. I get sick and tired of hearing preachers especially say, disciple is a follower. Yeah, of course a follower. That's only part of what a disciple is. Now, of course, you can be a disciple as you're growing. You become more and more impactful as you grow. But disciples ultimately need to be leaders in God's church in some way, helping keep the movement moving forward. So, Adventist church. We look at the Adventist church, and we have, actually not just the Adventist church, any church. There's three things that people have in common when they become part of, or become a disciple. So they behave like Jesus asked them to behave, believe the way Jesus tells us to believe, and then they belong to Jesus' body. When you have those three things, you become a disciple. Now there's some people that try and pretend to be disciples. Maybe they belong to a church, and they believe what the church says, but behind closed doors, they don't behave that way. Or there's other people who believe and behave, but they refuse to go to church. They don't belong to the body. You can see, so that's not really, the target is having all three of these areas together. That's what we're called to do. So where does the Adventist church start? Which one? Believe. Yeah, it's not hard. We do Bible studies when we meet somebody. We send out a Revelation seminar. We want them to believe the things that we believe. The Bible taught us, so we want them to believe. Once they start believing, what do we ask them to do? Yeah, you've accepted the Sabbath now. Are you willing to not work anymore? Are you willing to give up your cigarettes? Are you willing? So we always go believe, then behave. Then if you do both of those, you can belong. All right? Then yeah, you say yes. I want to live like this. I believe the things the Adventist Church does. It believes. I'm going to live my life that way. Then we can be baptized. What does Jesus start with? Jesus starts always with belong.
Yeah.
Always. If you read the Bible, you look at what Jesus started with, every single time it's belong. He sees the tax collector, one of the worst of sinners, a guy who cheats his own people. And he says to Matthew, he says, hey, let me give you a Bible study.
No.
That's not what he said?
No.
Oh, if you follow 28 fundamental beliefs.
No.
That's not what he said? No, he just said, come follow me. He saw a fisherman. Nasty, smelly people, They don't smell really good. Ugh. He said, hey, you. I've got this document for you to sign. There's 13 questions in the back of that. Is that what he said? No. He said, come follow me, and I'm going to make you fishers. Jesus always starts with belong. That means we need to start with belong. So when somebody comes into church, they're church.
Amen.
They belong. They aren't an outsider. We don't call them visitors. This is their church. You're here for them. This is their church. And when they come in, they belong. When people come into my churches, they immediately are assigned somebody to build friendship with them that first day. We walk with them through the entire service. We do emotional intelligence training so we can tell if they're more introverted and don't want that. But we stick with them the entire day so that they feel welcome. We show them around, we introduce them to people, we talk to them, get to know them. We have somebody always working with them so that they feel loved in our church. And then that person's calling them that week saying, I'm so glad you're here, hope you can make it next week. Then I've introduced them, maybe if I know they're a nurse, I'm going to introduce them to another nurse in the congregation or a medical worker. If I know that they like to climb, do mountain climbing, I'm going to introduce them to somebody who likes that kind of stuff. Building connections. We're building connections. And by the third time, we're putting them in ministry. I don't care if they're an atheist. They're going to be in ministry. We're going to find a ministry for them to be part of. It doesn't have to be Sabbath school teacher, I'm not saying that kind of thing. But they can help. Is it all right for an atheist to help you cook food?
Yes.
Yeah, of course it is. Can they help clean up or set up things?
Yes.
Absolutely. I've had Christian non-Adventists lead worship. I mean, it's not like we're worshiping a different God. They're still Christians. I have no problem with that.
Amen.
No problem at all. Now you guys are freaking out. I actually had a Nazarene guy be one of my Sabbath school teachers. He was so good knowing the Bible. He was so good. I said, man, I don't care if you're Nazarene or not. You're going to teach Sabbath school. And when I left that church, I put him in charge of the church. An Adventist church ran by Nazarene.
Wow.
You know what? Within 2 months, he was baptized in Adventist. That's what happens every time. That's what happens every time. I'll tell you guys some freaky stuff. When I plant a church, even if I have Adventist musicians, I won't use them. I go find and hire non-Adventists. Because I make sure that my worship always ties into the message. So I have to meet with them every month and explain to them the process that the Adventist mind is going through as we're doing this message. They don't even know they're getting a Bible study. We had a guy who used to play for T.D. Jakes, who was my worship leader in Maryland when I planted a church there. He was at the time making his money full time as a worship pastor for a Sunday church. I found him playing music one day on a Sunday. I look for him. I go on Sundays hunts. Sunday Hunt's looking for these Sunday worship leaders. And found him, told him what we're doing, say we could pay your whole team like $200 a week, nothing. But you can practice your Sunday stuff and you get paid to practice. How nice is that? And they're like, that's a great deal. 4 of them came along. This guy was an amazing leader, played again with TDJ, amazing guy. Within, I don't remember how many months, but it wasn't more than 5 months, he came and said, I just quit my job. I said, what do you mean? He says, I can't play for Sunday churches anymore. After listening to the Adventist message, I know what they're teaching is false doctrines. I have to be Adventist only now. And he went and got a even better career doing scores for films and independent film stuff. So we start with belong. Find ways to make people integrate into the body quickly. Not doing this. I'll be honest with you again, you're filming this, I don't care. I hate one thing almost more than anything else in the Adventist church. I usually hate. Hate is a weak word for what I feel like it is. Nominating committee is the worst thing the Adventist church ever came up with. It is a horrible, horrible thing. It makes no sense to me why an Adventist church would have a nominating committee. That it doesn't. You don't do spiritual gifts inventories. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to have people who are not in charge of ministry deciding who's going to be in that ministry. If you're not gifted working with children, why do you decide who works with children? And what if you put somebody who doesn't like working with kids but is so guilty they have to say yes? Then it makes them feel horrible for doing it because they don't like the job. The kids don't like the person because they're obviously not gifted in it. It just doesn't make any sense the way we do nominate. So we actually have what we call ministry placement. And every person who comes in gets a spiritual gifts test, they get a passions assessment, we look at their background, we let them test drive ministries. According to what you're saying, here's some things, which one looks interesting to you? Oh, you think that might be useful. Let me bring you to the leader, they'll talk to the leader, explain what goes on there. Let's try it out for 6 weeks. You try this out for 6 weeks, then we'll meet again with the leader and the ministry placement team, and then we'll talk and see how it goes. I'm telling you, this makes your church so excited to do ministry. When every person's in the right spot, they love it. They love it. It's amazing. All right, let's continue. All right, any questions about that? Anything we talked about? The scale? Right, let's continue. All right. So the foundation for outreach. We're called to build not an outreach foundation within the walls, but without. But when we are within the walls, and this is another one of your handouts, even the church itself should be designed for outreach. Everything we should do is based on evangelism. Who is your personal ministries leader here? You are. Man, thank you for doing that. I wish you didn't have a job. I wish the Adventist church never invented personal ministries. Not because I'm against evangelism, but because it's almost like it's one of the ministries of the church. Outreach is not one of the ministries of the church. It is every ministry of the church. It needs to be at the center of every single thing we do. Every single thing should be about outreach. So your worship service, they should have a plan how they're going to bring people to Jesus. What we do, we find people who are not Adventists, we bring them into our team continually. Once those first 4 were brought in the team, they got excited about the Adventist church, then we said, who do you know? And they brought another worship leader in. He was baptized within 2 months. I left 3 months after that. The guy was bawling on the stage. I forgot to tell him that I was going. And I announced to the church. I didn't think, he only knew me for a couple months. And he was literally bawling on the stage. He couldn't contain himself. And it's because you can build these kind of friendships when you love people and release them. Nobody had ever let him do what God had called him to do before. So, worship, community outreach is obviously evangelism. Preaching, evangelistic. Teaching ministries, children's ministries. How can greeting be evangelistic? Yeah.
I am superintendent of Sabbath school, and I was reading some years ago, and it was saying that that was one of the most important. When they walk in the door, they get a whole tone and view of the church just from the greeter. So those persons should be highly qualified to do that job.
There's three things you can never do wrong.
Yeah, and some people get upset when I tell them that door is not for us to congregate at.
Yes, absolutely.
You know.
Yeah. There's three things you cannot do wrong as a church. You cannot do preaching poorly. You just can't. You cannot do the worship service poorly. You cannot do greeting poorly. And if you have kids, you can't do children's ministry poorly. That's the fourth if you have kids. Yeah, you just have to do those right. That you have to do those right. They're so important. You know, at our greeting, we actually have 3 levels of greeters. We have, this is what I told, so every team we have, they have to create an evangelism plan. And we challenge them. This is the challenge to greeting. I tell them this. Within 10 minutes, every single new person who walks in this church should never want to go to another church. That is your job as a greeter. And you're like, what? How in the world is saying, welcome, here's a bulletin. You're going to get them there. It's not. It is not going to get them there. So we have 3 levels of greeters. We have outside greeting team. It's usually a couple of guys. They don't look like greeters. They look like they're just hanging outside talking. They're hanging out there, and when people come in, they're the smiley, friendly kind of people.
Yeah.
Don't put grumps on the greeting team. It's okay if you're a grump. You can, and nobody thinks they're a grump. Who thinks they're a grump? Nobody thinks they're a grump. So if somebody tells you a grump, it's not because they don't like you, but some people just are not as friendly naturally as others. They don't have that natural friendliness vibe. I don't know what it is. And it's okay. We're not all made the same. We're made different. Praise God. But you got to find the more jolly people. You know, your deacon sitting back out here, right here. Hey, this guy's super friendly. That kind of guy is great outside kind of greeter, happy, nice person, very nice person. So they're just hanging out there. Now, if you have a small church like this, don't do 2, do 1. Just have one person hanging outside. But then what they do is their job is this. They're not trying to rush up the cars and freak people out. But they're looking. If they see a new person, they're not like, oh, a new person. No, they're just kind of noticing. They're kind of noticing if they seem confused. Like when I pulled up here, I wasn't sure which door do I go to. Is it this? Because that looks like the front of the church. Do I walk around the church? Is there something on the side? I mean, every church I go to, why don't churches put a sign, entrance? I mean, it makes no sense to me. Just put a sign up there that says, enter here. So people know where to go. This is not as hard as most churches. But some churches, I'm like, I literally walked around a couple times to figure it out. So just, so if they don't seem to know where they're going, say, hey, you're looking for the door? It's right over here. Let me get that for you. Real simple. But if it's raining or snowing, they carry an extra umbrella.
Yes.
So hey, you need an umbrella? So that, women, do you like to get your hair wet before church?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, no. I don't like my hair wet either. No. Yeah, so, those type of things. And then once, and if they're carrying stuff, like a mother trying to deal with a bunch of kids and carry stuff, help them out. It's just a simple way of being friendly. In a small church, it's not hard to be friendly. You guys are a friendly church. So I've seen a bunch of hands. So who still has a question? Yes, ma'am.
Mine isn't necessarily a question.
It's a short comment, right?
I've been a greeter in this church.
Yeah.
And I've come across people who, when they come into the church and you go to reach out and say, good morning, how are you? Glad to have you here. they go, you know, don't touch me.
That's pretty rare, it happens, yes.
And, yeah, and I says, you are in the right place, but we are a very huggy company.
Yeah, don't hug strangers. Don't hug strangers. It is a big mistake.
Yeah.
I know you're trying to show how much you love them, but that is a big mistake.
Yeah.
I will tell you another thing, for some other cultures that are in this, I'm guessing in this community, don't point out visitors from up front. Another big mistake. In fact, that is the number one most important thing you should not do in an American culture, is point out visitors from the platform.
Oh, yeah.
It is the worst possible thing you can do. You just can't do it. And I know that it sounds like, well, I've had good experiences doing that. Some cultures like that. Like a Caribbean culture, like right? Anybody here from a Caribbean country or like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
that's normal, right?
Well, actually, in this area,
Yeah.
southern area, I don't know about the, white congregations, but I do know about the Baptists and other black congregations. They look for that. So it's different everywhere.
I think it's an age thing too, it's not a black thing for younger people.
Yeah.
It's a black thing for older black people.
Well, I still visit those churches in a part of the church. It's certainly.
Yeah, again, it's a
every
cultural
place is
thing,
different.
yeah, so,
Place is different.
yeah. So if you have, like, somebody who came into my church, if I had one visitor
Yeah.
who came in for somewhere like Jamaica, I would point them out because they
Yeah.
expect it, they think
Yeah.
it's honorable,
Yeah.
you know. But if I had at the same time, like a Caucasian couple and a Jamaican couple come in, I'm not going to point out either one. I just won't do it because I'll make sure to make a fuss over them another way. But I'm not going to point them out because that is the fastest way to chase out North American culture people, especially young ones. They just don't like it.
They don't like being spun out.
No, and introverts don't like it a lot either. Yeah. My wife is an extraordinaire extrovert. But there was a church in New York, she would wait until after everything was done before the preaching started, before she'd go in. Because she'd been there like 3 times, and every time they're like, visitors, you lady right there, stand up, you're a visitor. Like, I've been here 3 times, I'm a pastor's wife.
Oh, no.
I mean, you're setting yourself up for a lot of problems. Now, this is a smaller church, you guys do whatever you want, I'm just telling you what statistic. Yeah.
So suppose a member was away for a while, and the person comes back, they shouldn't welcome them
It
back?
depends on why they're away. Like the people who are away for the reasons you said today, great. They're away because they were just skipping church.
Yeah.
You act like they never left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry. I got another story that I'll get to.
Okay.
So I was preaching at a church in New York that had a welcome back youth day. And they were bringing back all these youth who'd been out of the church, absent from the church. And they get up from the front and they're like, you all boys, and it was mostly men, you boys, you should be in church. We're glad you're here, but you belong in this church. You should be in church. You're part of this family, right up front, just kind of scolding them. I mean, you invite them back to scold them. Then during lunch, how many of those members who were their family sat with them? 0. Nobody sat with them. I went and sat with them. I started talking to them. I figured out who was the leader of the group. I worked with them for a half an hour. I helped him get involved in a brand new church plant. He took that entire group of people who were not going to church, took them all into a church plant. And now they're active in ministry. But not one person in that church cared enough to do that. And I was just a visitor there. It's just ridiculous. We've got to think differently. Now this church, I don't think ever. I honestly, I think this church is great.
His church is what?
Great. It's awesome.
Yeah, for instance, I think so too. But for instance, you know, it's a lot of love in us, and joy and happiness and all that good stuff.
Amen.
And we'd be so elated when we see people come back. I know how they treat me like when I come back from Georgia. I'm glad to have you.
No, it's different. You're coming back from a
It
trip.
feels great that you loved and you missed and you get, we don't wanna leave.
Yeah, no. If you're coming back for a trip, but if somebody's like, you know,
Some strangers.
yeah, if somebody left because they were
Yeah.
mad at the church or they were having a crisis
Yeah.
spiritually and they left, when they come back, they don't want to be overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just, it heightens that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I understand. I got you.
All right.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned that the other ministries are important in outreach. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you register, or what are your thoughts concerning Sabbath school teachers?
Yeah, so we did Sabbath school different than you guys probably do. So again, I don't do church for Adventists. So I have usually one Sabbath school that does the lesson, maybe 0 Sabbath schools that do a lesson. Adventists could do a lesson at home. I do a Sabbath school that makes sense to newcomers. So we do teachings on things that they would understand. It's not filled with Ellen White quotes because they don't know what that means. Why are we using this woman? You know, there's things that I've heard churches do that make, you know, if I was a visitor and somebody says, you know, we're reading from the inspired pen. They're like, what? I could see them picturing like this pen floating around writing stuff. You know? Or if we just say, yeah. Or if we just say Ellen White says, they may be like, which one here is Ellen White?
Right, that happened to me too.
Yeah.
It took me a minute I had to, it's like having dessert before dinner. I had to get into the Bible before I even focused on it even.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, I just
Yeah.
couldn't grasp, but then I said to myself, she's not saying anything bad, so
Right.
there's no need to dislike. I just had to ingest her properly, you know,
Yeah.
but I got through all that.
Yeah, but some people don't get through it.
Yeah,
That's the
and
problem.
I got through some stuff, but
Yeah.
that was really deep for me, yeah.
Yeah, learn from these people. They're new converts. They can tell you some of the experience they've had. Yeah, so that's why, like I used Ellen White in a sermon today. But did anybody notice how I introduced it?
So you just.
I said, in the book Desire of Ages, written by Ellen White.
Right.
Right.
So I said, in the book, like I was introducing her like any other author.
Yeah, yeah.
So that the Adventists know who I'm talking about, but the non-Adventists are like, oh, it's a lady who wrote a book. Okay.
It's just like when they tell you you're speaking or you're writing an English composition, you gotta know your audience.
Exactly.
You know who you're gearing it to
Yeah.
and make adjustments accordingly.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, so I started on the greeting. So second level greeters. So outside greeters. Then you have the inside greeters. They look like normal greeters, but they're not. They do the same thing. Welcome. We're so glad you're here today. Let me give you some information about the service today. But if it looks like it's a new person, they don't say, hi, is this your first time here? Never say that, because what if it's not? You've insulted them. You never say, is this your first time here? Instead, you can say a million things. I like to play the ignorant guy. I like to say, oh, so glad you're here today. Listen, I am terrible with faces and names. I am so sorry. Can you tell me, have we met? And you know, because they may have been there and I haven't met them and stuff. I'll know if I've met them. Yeah, I'll remember if I've met their face. I'll remember their face. So I don't have to worry about saying have we met because I know we haven't met. If you don't have a good time with faces, then figure out another one. For me, I know faces. So I'll say, have we met? And they'll say, oh no. And usually they'll tell me, this is my first time here. And then I'll say, as a greeter, I'll say, oh, we're so glad you chose to be here with us today. You know, this is your home now. You know, you can say something like that if they're giving that body language.
Right.
If they're not, if they're more timid, you never say that. But if they seem excited to be there and engaged in that conversation, I'll go as far as saying, this is your home now. You know, give them a little shock. I want them to be a little bit shocked. Then, then we say, listen, we have a gift for you. Just thank you for joining us today. And in fact, let me get somebody for you. Let's say it's a guy, his name was Jonathan, and I say, Mark, come over here. Mark, this is Jonathan. He's with us for the first time. Can you get him one of our gifts? And Mark's like, hey, Jonathan, nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. Walk over. We have a little table. It's a very simple gift, not some big bag. Don't do something that marks them as a visitor. Something small. So we do something small. We like to give a plastic mug. Yeah, we do a plastic mug. Inside it has a jump drive. On the jump drive it has a welcome sermon from the pastor. It has inside a list of all the contact people for different ministries if they want to contact somebody. Any of those things you can have inside that cup. Very simple, very easy. But this is what Jonathan does. Or Mark does. As he's handing, which one's the visitor again? Jonathan? Jonathan's the visitor again. As Mark is handing Jonathan the cup, as soon as it touches, and this is a psychological thing, as soon as it touches his hand, say, oh, by the way, can we get some information for you so we can serve you better? And so then we have an iPad, but you can use paper, doesn't matter. Get their information. And then Mark would say, are you meeting somebody here today, Jonathan? Oh, no, I'm not. Hey, well, I was just going to go into, if it's Sabbath school time, I'd say it's me. I was just going to go into our Bible study time. Would you like to join me?
Yeah.
Or if it's church, I was just about to go into our church service. Would you like to join me? If they're not meeting somebody. If they are meeting somebody, then you help them find them. But then it's Mark's job to kind of do small conversation. Don't overwhelm them, but just talk to them, get to know them. Maybe tell them what you do, find out what they do. The simple stuff we do when we're getting to know people. And then find ways to make connections. Those third level greeters make all the difference. Because that person's building relationship already. How many times have you gone to a church and it felt like nobody cared you were there?
Yeah.
I hate that.
Right.
I hate it. There's nobody in the world who's going to feel like that in my churches. Because our greeters, their job is to make sure that nobody wants to go to any other church within 10 minutes. That's their job. They're going to feel so welcome in our church. Unless they're really standoffish and we train. Sometimes if people are like that, then we don't invite to sit down with them. I would just say, as Mark, I'd say, let me show you where things are at. Over here are our restrooms. We're going to have a lunch today after our service. You're invited. We'd love to have you. Our church service is right in there. Do you have any questions? If they're more standoffish. Yeah.
I attended a seminar once, and it was brought out that when people came to church for the first time, they would prefer to be called guests rather than visitors.
Yeah, I don't call them either one. I don't use those terms. We don't call them anything.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want them to know that we think of them as outsiders in any way.
Anyway.
In any way at all.
Right.
Because they aren't. The church is for them. This is their church. Yeah. So, but yes, I agree. If you're going to call them something, call them guests over visitors. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I work the door on pretty much a regular basis too, and what you're saying too, we have to also be able to read people a little bit.
Yeah. That's why EQ training is so good.
Yeah, extra attention to the people that come in the door and to get a feel or a sense of how they feel. Because the same things you talked about, I've encountered, and it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, no, I don't need to sign in. So maybe that's something we do.
So, and somebody mentioned the hugging thing. So you guys know what the 5 love languages are? Yeah, so some of you might know. So the 5 love languages are quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. So I am physical touch. What does that mean? Like, I don't want you to touch me. It's too intimate for me. And I'm saying like in a hugging manner, because that is my love language. And so if my wife rubs my back, I'm like, my love tank fills up. My love, that's what they call it, your love tank. My daughter is physical touch. All I had to do as a dad is put my arm around her while watching TV, and she'll walk away saying, Daddy's love tank, I'm filled up. You know? My wife is acts of service. I wash the dishes, I take care of something, and she comes home, oh, look what you did for me. Love tank's filling up. So when you just go around hugging people, they're shy people, there are introverted people, there are people who are averse to physical touch, and there are people who have their love language as is physical touch. Any of those groups will hate a hug. I hate a hug. I just can't stand that people who are strangers would hug me. Not that I don't like people. I shake people's hands. I always put my hand on the shoulder usually. I'm a touchy guy. A hug is a little bit too much from a stranger. So you have to learn to read people. If they seem like they're cool with it, then you can do it. But if you don't know how to read people, don't do things that you're not sure of. It's a touch and go thing. You gotta be really careful.
So, do you do that with church members too?
Do what?
If, you know, be careful how you.
Oh, yeah.
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 So,
Oh, absolutely.
So, if you know a church member and you're not sure that they want you to hug them, don't hug them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't hug people, just I'm a guy. It's kind of weird. Maybe it's not weird. But the only people I hug are like guys that are good friends that I know they don't like hugging. And then I do it just to be mean. Because then they think it's funny.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, like, we'll find a guy that we know doesn't like hug, and I'll say, hey, so-and-so doesn't like hug, let's get him. You know, because then, it's different. It's not like it. Yeah, it's not real. All right, so I'm rushing here, because we gotta get through this. Unfortunately, my assistant, I didn't tell her to print it the other way, so you'll see that this one word is cut off. Servant recognition is supposed to be recognition. All right? It's supposed to be printed the other way. Let me go through this real quickly. So when I do church, I actually create a calendar of outreach, how I'm going to make touches into the community. Ellen White says that we're supposed to meet people where they are, not where we are. So we do stuff purposely to make sure that happens. So I create a community impact calendar. You can do whatever you want. I'm just giving you an example. I do 3 cycles a year. We do an outreach event every 2 weeks, and we rotate what it looks like. So we follow this cycle I'm about to show you 3 times a year. There's 8 different things. We do them every 2 weeks. This lasts for a year. All right, so first one is community interaction. This is just getting out in the community, getting involved in clubs, going to the fair, doing whatever you can to just be involved in the life of the community. If the community is doing it, the church should be doing it with them, because you're called to be part of that community. All right? Community needs met. So once you know the needs, find ways to meet the needs. So we found one community of the church we're doing that the young people were coming out of high school. They had good grades, but they didn't really have a good counseling system to transition them to the next level, to college, universities, or trade schools. So we stepped in. We found out that's the need for this community. So we invited admission counselors, some professors, some financial aid people from different colleges and trade schools. And we had a big thing for the entire region. All high school students and their families were invited. And we had presentations, and then they could sit down, and they'd have somebody teach them how to fill out their FAFSA. They ask questions if they need to know how to do the financial aid thing. How do you get scholarships? How do you make an application that'll catch somebody's attention? All of these different things. A lot of high school students were sophomores. How do we make sure that we're ready for high school or for college and do the best? We did all these things as a service to the community. We didn't couch it in religious stuff. We were just a church serving the people we're called to serve. And it makes a big difference because we're doing things out of the common course of things, and we captured their attention. What kind of church does that? So find out what their needs are and figure out ways to meet them. Training seminars. This can be anything, This is what Adventist churches are known for. But make sure your training seminars are actually meeting a need. You know, imagine if Jesus did things the way that so many churches do. You know, what if he said, like blind Bartimaeus, we use him because we talked about it. Blind Bartimaeus comes up to Jesus. Jesus says, what do you want me to do? Bartimaeus says, I want to see. And Jesus says, oh, wait a minute, I got something for you. Hey, come here, Timothy. Bring that water over here. Well, I know you can't see this, Bartimaeus, but I'm turning this water into wine. Here, taste this, Bartimaeus. That's good. Oh, man, you have a great day. See you later.
He didn't meet his need.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. He did a miracle,
Yeah, but he didn't meet.
but it wasn't the miracle that he needed, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Adventist churches love to do ministry that they like to do, but not necessarily meeting the needs of the community. We need to actually find out what they need and then do stuff for them instead of just doing stuff that we're used to doing because we like doing it. Every single church in the world tells me, I'm going to do health ministry or I'm going to do cooking school. Great, if that's what the community said they need, praise God. But if that's the only thing you do and they never told you that's what they need, you're just doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for them. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it is the greatest need. Praise God. That's good. We're set for that. But anyway, so find training seminars. Did I see a hand? Okay. Social gatherings. I told you about this.
Yeah.
About half of things we do are socially motivated. Just have fun. We had game nights. I used to do a thing called 24-hour party at my house. Yeah. So the young adults would show up, and usually after church on Saturday sometime, we'd have a discussion or maybe a Bible movie or something. Then I'd make them a big dinner. That night we'd have tons of these really cool games. Not like board games, but fun, like interactive games. We'd be laughing all night long. We'd maybe watch a movie together. Sometime around midnight, I'd have a famous popcorn recipe I'd make a big amount of this famous popcorn. People would be eating that. And we had a rule. If you fall asleep, we are going to mess with you. And we had stuff set up, like on a table. We had like nylons and funny hats and washable markers and different things that we could do to you if you fell asleep. We were going to do these things to you. And so people knew if we fall asleep, they're going to do these things, they're going to post them on Facebook and make it look crazy. So people would try not to fall asleep. Then in the morning, I'd make a huge breakfast for everybody, cook them, a big breakfast, and then, that's Sunday now. We usually try to do this when there's some kind of event happening on Sunday. So if you want to stick around and watch football, but usually we call it a 24-hour party, but usually most people after breakfast took off. But if they want to stay and watch football through the day with us, that's fine. They can do that, anything they want to do. Man, people love that. They invite their friends. We weren't trying to make it spiritual. The only thing spiritual we did is prayed over the food. We just had a blast. We did this kind of stuff all the time, yes.
And I think that with like activities like that, just being active
Yeah.
and not always, I know it's great to give the word and it's great to share it, but to just be active and bonding with these people without having to pressure them into hearing the word, that helps too. And me and my cousin experienced that, and I think that's what helped in our growth. We went to the skating rink. I would always come from here, always to Richmond every weekend, and they had a 24-hour skating rink. We would be up there all night skating, and they gave us food. They had activities where you can catch the balloons in whatever color, they'll call it out, and you get a gift. And in the morning, our parents get us, they serve us breakfast before we leave.
Who is putting this on?
This is just a skating rink, and it's $20 to go on with a bunch of people your age, and we had so much fun. There was no problems, no fighting, no anything.
We had the same thing. We would go to we had those all-night laser tag places.
Oh.
And literally, I'd be wiped out. We'd take all these young people. The same thing. You pay like $25, and for all night long, you could play laser tag and shoot. You can't leave though. You have to stay in there all night.
To my experience, I recall having saints or Christians approach me in my household, and they'll probably practice maybe 2 Corinthians about the wicked doesn't with the dark does it,
Associated with
fellowship. Yeah, they kind of treated
You
us
met
like that,
some
like they
weird
won't touch
people.
us, but they want to preach to us, but they don't want to come in our house, and they don't want to touch us, and they don't want to, but
That's not
they'll,
happening.
like toss a pamphlet at us or
Oh,
something like.
yeah, that's probably the Latter-day Saints. Or it's the Jehovah's Witnesses, probably Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
My nephew and his wife.
Yeah, and it's just because Jehovah's Witnesses think if they actually believe that if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you're infidel. We don't believe that as that.
Yeah.
We're all children of God.
Yes.
He died for every one of us. We don't treat each other differently, so. Yeah. All right, next. Oh, kindness evangelism. Okay, time is going fast. I've been here too long. But
That was
yeah, social gathering. So any type of fun thing. We want so many people just doing barbecues on the beach. I know you're on a beach right here, but you know, if we just do barbecues and we'd be throwing frisbees, football, playing ball, whatever. And people you walk by, hey, you want a free hot dog? You want something to drink? Yeah, no problem. They come get it. They start hanging out. What are you guys doing? We're just playing. You want to hang out? Yeah, sure. Who are you guys? Oh, we go to this church. Oh, we're here on Saturday. Really? Yeah. You want to come? Sure. Boom. I mean, so many people came to our church from that. So many people. So easy. So kindness evangelism. I love kindness evangelism. This is the entry-level thing that I always teach new people how to do evangelism. This is just doing random acts of kindness, not asking for money, in fact, not ever taking money, just doing nice things. It can be simple. We usually start people simple. We'll do something in the park. We'll just set up a table, put up a big sign that says free drinks, free ice cream, free balloons, something like that. Families come, people come like, free for reals? Yeah. And then when they take it, we hand them a little card. And it says, on the card it says, Christ's love is free. We want to show you Christ's love in a practical way. And on the back of the card, it says, if we can serve you in any other way, don't hesitate to contact us. It has a map of where our church is and our contact information. Very simple. Yeah. Hand them water in a card, hand them an ice cream in a card, balloon in a card, whatever it is. But we like to go even a step above. Again, she said to arrest the attention. My favorite kindness evangelism is this. Knock on the door, knock, knock, knock. And they open the door and I say, hey, did you get your free batteries yet? Are you confused? I want them to be confused. I want them to be like, what? No, what are you talking about? Yeah, we've got free batteries. You didn't get yours yet? No, what are they for? Oh, well, the fire department tells us that twice a year we're supposed to change the batteries in our smoke alarms. Every one of us is supposed to do that. We just want to make sure that our neighbors are safe. We love our neighbors. We want to make sure everybody's safe, so we're bringing free batteries. How many do you need? And they're still confused. What? Are you the, they always get this, are you the fire department? No, we're the Farmville Church up the road here. And we just really love our community. And we can't stand the thought of somebody getting hurt in our community. So we are bringing you batteries to make sure you're safe. How many can we give you today? And we have a bag. So inside this bag are baggies with one battery and a card that says the same thing, Christ's love is free. And then we say, how many do you need? And they say, oh, we have 3 smoke on. Okay. So they take out one of those bags, and take another bag has 2 extra batteries, put 3 batteries in the bag, and as you're handing them to them, you say, if you need help putting these in, we can do that for you too. They never do. I mean, unless once in a while a very fragile older person or somebody might say yes, but usually don't. So you hand it to them and say, thanks, God bless, and walk away. And they're like, what just happened? A church came to give me smoke alarm batteries. And we want it to be something that captures their attention. I want them to think about my church. We are the church that on Sunday, we have a huge Easter egg hunt. On Sunday, on Easter. Yes, Easter eggs. Sorry, Adventists. We do Easter eggs on Sunday. and games and everything. But then we have a corner that's saying, we have an area that says, so listen, if anybody wants to learn more about what Easter's really about, we're gonna have a little discussion about that. But you don't have to go to that. We just want them to get to know us. And we have drawings for nice stuff, so they give us their contact information. And they know we're a church that's putting us on, because we have little signs that say who's running it. We do anything we can to capture the communities. That's moral. That's kind of central. It's not immoral or not religious. It's just a normal thing that people do. And so, whatever we can do to capture their attention. We tried crazy stuff that didn't work too. We tried toilet paper. Going door to door giving away toilet paper. And our thing was, it's a horrible thing to get stuck. If you have to go and you don't have any toilet paper left, we don't want our neighbors to ever feel uncomfortable. That just didn't go over. But we tried. Most people just laughed at us and said we didn't.
A little too personal.
All right. Personal witnessing. We train all of our people on that scale. Remember I showed you the spiritual scale. We train people how to reach people on that scale. Servant recognition. This is a good one. So the servants of your community hold a banquet for them. The fire department, soldiers, teachers, police, whoever it is. Hold a banquet. So what you do is you just go into their department headquarters, say, our church wants to honor your group for what you do in this community. We have a plaque. We're going to give you a free banquet. They can invite their friends and family, whoever they want. You ask them for pictures. You can send us pictures, take some pictures of different people, fun stuff, funny stuff. We don't care. We're going to have a slideshow going, and then invite the mayor or the city council or whoever you have here. Invite anybody who might be somewhat important, because they love to be part of this kind of stuff, and they give a little speech. Very simple thing. My favorite group to do, though, is one that nobody guesses. You couldn't guess it in a million years. My favorite group is trash collectors.
Okay.
Wow.
Think what trash collectors do for us.
Yes.
They are really servants for our community. Nobody ever thinks to honor them. So when you honor trash collectors, oh man, it's such a, we have a plaque made for them. We do so much stuff to make them feel loved. So when they think about a church, guess who they're going to think about? They're going to think about this church. They're going to think about the church that actually cared about us. Had a banquet, the mayor was invited, everybody, all these things. It'd make it a really fun thing. Dress up nice as you're serving them, all these things. Make it a really nice night. If it gets too big, find a place in town to rent. Don't do it here. Whatever you can do to make it nice, do that. All right?
Okay.
And then finally, I still believe in traditional reaping events. But don't do them unless you do the other stuff. They don't work unless you do the other stuff. But when you do the other stuff, they work very well. Again, I do twice a year at least, but sometimes 3 times a year I have an evangelistic series. But that's because I've already run through the cycle. And we're bringing people in, getting to know them, connecting, building relationships. A lot of people have been through our cycles 2 or 3 times before they ever come to reaping event. But we're building this relationship, and when they come, they're coming to sit with friends to learn. Because we've built a relationship with them. And so we are very purposeful in how we do this. How do you in a small church, though, actually make this happen? We use what's called impact teams. Everybody in the church, in my church, doesn't have to be here. You have to be on an impact team. You don't have a choice. If you're a member, you're on an impact team. And so impact teams are teams of 4, and they are in charge of the event that's coming up. So let's say this church has 40 active members. How many teams would you have? 10 teams, okay. If a program is meeting every 2 weeks, how often are you in charge? Once every 10 times 2 is what? 20 weeks. Does that sound tough? Once every 20 weeks, your impact team is in charge of an event. So you have 20 weeks, almost 5 months to prepare for that one event. That doesn't mean other people don't come, but the impact team in charge, they do all the groundwork, they do all the advertising, they have 5 months maybe, or 4 months, or however big a church is, to get ready to do everything to make it a nice event, a really nice event. Now maybe you only do things once a month, and then you'd only once every 40 weeks you have to do something. You know, it doesn't matter. We did this with a church of 18. We had 3 levels of greeters, and we had impact teams with a church of 18. Within 5 months, we were at 36. We doubled, exactly doubled. We baptized 18 people, with 18 people in church in 5 months. Then we kept growing. We were at over 70 within a year. We just kept doubling and doubling and doubling. When you do these things right, the first church I started doing all these stuff with was in Lincoln, Nebraska. We started out with 40 people. Within a year and a half, we were at 277. Wow. These things really work. They really work. I planted in Seattle, Washington. I knew 0 people. Launched a church in 10 months, 212 people in 10 months. This really works if you work.
What is your perspective on someone that gets baptized? Do you think it's too soon, or?
That's not my place to say how a church does that, honestly. I can tell you my personal opinion is a lot different than what the Adventists do. I don't see in the Bible having to be justified and sanctified before you're baptized. And so, you know, if you look at the back of the baptismal form, it basically says you have to be sanctified before you're baptized, which is out of order from the Bible. The Bible says that you're justified first. That's not the words it uses, but that's the process. Justified, you come to Christ. You accept Him. The Holy Spirit works in you as you're sanctified. So, yeah, it's a work of a lifetime. So what I do is I make sure, though, that they know everything we believe. I don't tell anybody, I don't want anybody baptized without knowing what we believe, because then you're giving them false information. So I go through a whole Bible study like normal, but I'm not making them check off that they're perfect yet. That's how I see it. And again, I'm not faulting anybody for doing it differently. I see why other people want to do it differently. It's just not how I do it. I'm sorry?
The church doesn't really require to be perfect. It requires that, hey, this is my goal.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're asking me, I'll tell you honestly, I baptize people that are smoking, because I know that soon they won't be smoking.
Right.
I baptize people, I don't care less about jewelry anyway, but if lots of jewelry on, I don't care. It doesn't bother me one bit to baptize people with jewelry on, because I know God will speak to them. I had a young girl we were doing a Bible study with. This is when I came out of college, I was the most legalistic pastor, extreme legalist. And we went to a Bible study. The senior pastor told me, "You don't say a word. You're here to watch." All right. This young girl, dating one of our members. She says, "Hey guys, look at this." She sticks out her tongue. She's got her tongue pierced. And look, pulls her shirt up a little bit, has her belly button pierced. She's all excited. That's really cool. He's like, I didn't say a word. He's like, "Oh, okay, let's get study." Afterwards, I was like, "Why didn't you say something to her? Tell her that was wrong. We can't let people go around being pierced in our church." He said, "Do you think you're the Holy Spirit?" I was like, "What?" He's like, what do you mean you're going to tell her how to live her life? That's the Spirit's job to tell her how to live her life. We're going to show her the Bible and let God do His job. I'm like, okay. It was like 3 studies later. She goes, "Hey guys, look at this." Sticks out her tongue. No ring. Pulls up her shirt a little bit. No belly button. She goes, "I was reading the Bible and doing the study." I said, "I don't think God needs me to be flashy. It's not about me showing off." So I thought, this isn't good stuff. I took it all off. And my legalism went right out the window. I was like, man, legalists are trying to be God. I am not God. I will love people and share the Bible. I'm not going to do anything else. All right, so questions, and we'll wrap up. I went a little longer.
I have
Please, please.
as far as all the efforts and different events, is there somebody sort of managing when it's happening?
Yeah, we have.
You gotta have somebody in charge.
Yeah, that
making
coordinates.
sure everything-
So we have a team that actually plans out what's going to happen for the year. And the impact teams don't plan what they're going to be doing. They're just on a rotating calendar. And you may hit this. We actually want them to be uncomfortable. Like, I've never done this kind before. Good. That's what I hoped. So you'll come to us, we'll train you how to do that, so you'll be proficient in it. Next time, you'll know how to do it. So we don't let teams pick which one they're going to do. Wherever you fall on the schedule is what you are going to be running. Yeah, so. And by the way, if you're baptized, you're not allowed to be baptized. If you don't, sign on to an impact team, agree to be at the next evangelistic series to help, and join a small group. Can't be baptized. You don't do those things. Have to do those things. Required. Because you'll never grow as a Christian. It's not because we are saying we just can't let you think it's okay to be a citizen doing nothing Christian.
Right.
That we can't let you think that's okay. If you're coming to us, we're showing you what Christ is like and what it looks like to have a Christian life. So we can't just say, go do whatever you want. We're actually going to grow together. All right, that's all I have, unless there's any other questions. Thank you very much. This is a real pleasure to be at your church. I am really going to talk you guys up. I really like this church. I can see some great things happening in this community. I'm looking forward to hearing what's happening. I'm only a phone call or an email away. You know, your pastor has my contact information. You guys all have it if you have the handouts as well.
So, if we wanted to ask you a question, we need to go to the pastor, we come directly to you.
No, you can ask me questions as long as you're not saying, how can I get around the pastor?
No, I know, we're talking about black.
Yeah, you just have that. Now, I will tell you that I'm at next level busy, so if I don't answer you, don't think it's because I don't love you. It's because I am crazy busy. So just keep asking. Be like a persistent widow. Finally, there'll be a time when you ask that I will have time to answer. Because I get tons and tons of questions. I've been doing this for a lot of years, so people asking questions from all over. So just keep asking. Yeah, I'm happy to help. You know, we're going to have those trainings. You see those training sheets?
Yes.
This training is 2 hours. This is nothing compared to the training you can get. Super high level training coming your way. If this church wants to be part of it, I would love this church to be part of AIM. Man, I love it. Allies of the Mission. This would be an ideal church for that. So, and you can, but the maximum people, you can only take maximum 12, including pastor. So it's got to be pastor and the board or elder combination. At least 5 have to go.
Okay.
But it can be up to 12. If you can't bring at least 5, you can't come at all. And if you have more than 12, then you have to come back and teach them.
Okay,
Thank you,
Sister
guys.
Laura will say thanks and I agree.
First.